Welcome, everyone. We'll be waiting 2 to 3 minutes to get started for those who are still in the middle of connecting. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for being part of our community. Before we dive into the topic today, I have a few reminders. Please feel free to ask questions at any time by typing them in the IM window. Be aware that any questions you post will be publicly visible. However, if you prefer, you can post your question anonymously by checking the box right below where you enter it. We've had a large number of people register for this webinar. We're thrilled to see such interest, but it means it may not be possible to answer every single question in real time. We will do our best and get to as many as we can, and we have several dedicated people standing by just to answer your questions. But I wanted to provide an additional mechanism to ensure everyone's questions get answered. If you'll visit aka.ms/MCAS-Q&A, like the links I posted there in the announcement window, you'll see a post dedicated to webinar questions. We'll be reviewing the question transcript after this webinar, and we'll post further answers there. If you're listening to this after the fact as a recording, that's also a great place to ask a question. So feel free to reply to that post with anything you have. Please note that this webinar is being recorded and shared publicly. We will post the recordings on our community at aka.ms/MCAS-recordings. While you are there, please join our community by visiting aka.ms/security-community. That's the best way to ensure you don't miss any future webinars or major announcements. On our community, you can speak directly to our engineering teams that create our security products. You'll be able to influence our product designs and get early access to changes by doing things like participating in private previews, requesting features, giving feedback, reviewing our product roadmaps, attending in-person events, or joining webinars like this. We believe that the best way to improve our products is by removing any barriers between you and the people that create them. So please join us. We have a great topic for you today. This is part 4 of a 6-part webinar series on Microsoft Cloud App Security, or MCAS for short. Throughout the series, we'll be walking you through all the major pillars of functionality, showing you how to deploy and configure each part. Today's focus will be on discovering the use of shadow IT in your organization and managing the associated risks. Our presenter and MCAS expert is Anisha Gupta. She's a program manager on our MCAS team and part of our Get to Production group. The focus of her role is to help customers deploy and configure MCAS, so she has deep expertise in this topic. Without further ado, I'll hand it over to her. Anisha?
All right, thank you for the introduction, Ryan. Let's get started. So MCAS is our cloud access security broker, which gives you visibility and control over the applications within your organization. To recap, as Ryan stated, we have a 6-part webinar series. In our first webinar series, we went over information protection, then we went into threat detection and real-time control. This webinar will be focused on discovery, specifically within discovering your cloud applications, assessing if your cloud apps meet your compliance standards, and governing discovered applications. Let's talk a little bit about shadow IT, or discovering apps you may not know are in your organization. When we talk about shadow IT, we love looking at it as a life cycle, not a task that's completed, but a life cycle that is identifying an application. We're able to dive in deeper and understand what is the risk in this application. For that, we have a security catalog of more than 16,000 applications. For each application, we assess them on 70 different risk factors. What are these risk factors? They extend from general information, such as headquarters of data centers, to security measures to see if applications have encryption at rest or in transit. Next, we're able to evaluate our compliance. We provide information on which apps are, for example, GDPR compliant, SOC 2, HIPAA compliant, and then you're able to set these compliance measures and standards based on your organization's business needs of the specific applications. After evaluating compliance, we also want to analyze usage. We are able to provide audit logs for each application, so you're able to see transaction data for upload and download. So for example, maybe your marketing team uses specific applications for market research, or you want to see what usage is growing for specific applications and alert or block on those applications. After you're able to analyze the usage, you can further leverage this and manage your cloud applications. In this phase itself, the process differs from company to company. For example, you can put your applications with custom app tags, for example, in legal review or in technical review, or allow users to use the application for a limited time and then decide what actions you want to take. You can even take it one step further and add further controls with our third-party integrations and block access to these applications. The last but not least, we have continuous monitoring, where you're able to get alerts on any changes to the application. This completes the life cycle, and overall, we like to define it into 3 different phases. Phase 1, where you discover and identify your applications, then evaluate and analyze upon those applications, and then continuously manage and monitor. So what does the architecture look like within cloud app security and your discovery architecture? When users are currently accessing applications on a corporate network, they're typically routed through their firewall and proxies. We can connect with these firewall and proxies as a data source within MCAS. They're typically configured as a receiver. Then you're able to add in an intermediary called the log collector. This aggregates all of the logs from each of your firewall and proxy resources, and then it takes these logs and sends it to Cloud App Security. So now the logs are sent, now what? MCAS takes these raw logs and runs it through a parser to identify information that's pertinent with the user, and it also gives you information of your source and destination IP address. We also have native integration with Windows Defender ATP, which gives you the information of the machine itself. Currently, we have this running for any Windows 10 machines with version 1809 or higher. Furthermore, we're also able to integrate with secure web gateways. We currently have 2 third-party integrations with Zscaler and iBoss. Each one of these applications requires an NSS server that ends up forwarding the logs to Cloud App Security. What you're able to do then is take action and have the end user enforce policies so that they're not able to access these specific applications. For example, if you unsanction Salesforce through Cloud App Security, the end user will not be able to access that application accordingly. I'm going to go to our demo. and showcase the different features within a discovery environment. So right off the bat, you're able to see all of the different data that we're able to collect based on what firewalls and proxies that you connect within the organization. We also have a Windows Defender ATP integration, as well as a snapshot report of Zscaler. I'll go over the differences between snapshot and continuous reports later on in this demo. So the dashboard that you currently see, we're able to see key pieces of information. For example, what applications were discovered, how many IP addresses are there, how many users, and the traffic data, both download and upload. Then we're able to see mapped out data that shows, for example, traffic from high, medium, and low risk applications. Then we can even, when we scroll down, we can see the app headquarters locations and see where each of these apps are typically located, and where their data centers are located as well. Next, we're able to filter and see the different tabs within the Cloud Discovery. So let's look at discovered applications. This lays out a list of applications you're able to see within the Discovery component. For example, we can see Microsoft Dynamics right at the beginning. And if we click, we can expand and see all the different categories associated to understand how this property score was calculated. We can take a further look and lower the risk score and see what applications have a low risk score and why. So for example, we can see in this application, we have a low risk score, but overall it has a general 7 risk score. And you're able to modify these score metrics based on how your organization identifies and measures those standards. We can also see the different IP addresses associated. For example, you can look at specific IP addresses and filter on where are the traffic levels within this IP address. Everything is essentially a hyperlink, which you can drill down in and understand what are the applications associated with this IP addresses, what are the transactions, and we can even take a further look at the users who are connecting through this IP address. We can also do the same exact thing, but on the user perspective, where we can see the user's traffic data, upload data, and transaction, when it was last seen, and then take a further look in that user itself, especially if you're trying to do a user investigation with discovery data. We have graphs that identify when the transactions were and on what date. If you have Windows Defender ATP connected, you're able to see, let me go back to the dashboard. You're able to see a new tab open up called Machines. Within the machine data, you're able to see very similar details, such as with the IP addresses and the users, that's specific to machines. So when we go in and filter, we can see Jane Smith VM and the applications and risky apps associated. We can even take it one step further and view it in Windows Defender ATP. We like to point out this integration because it's a one-click deployment. If you go to your Windows Defender ATP console and go to your settings and let me make sure that it loads 1 second. If you go to your settings and then your advanced features, then you're able to see within here the Microsoft Cloud App Security integration, and it's a one-click toggle. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and talk about different actions that you can take within the organization. So I'm going to switch consoles here. This is my demo environment that I have, and talk a little bit about policy creation with discovered applications. Creating policies are a great way to monitor and assess what applications and what kind of activities you're seeing within discovery. So you can create a policy from many different areas. For example, if you go from here, you can see all the different policy templates we have built in and build on top of those. I like to point out or build policies based on the different filtering that you have within the discovered applications environment. For example, I want to go ahead and automatically unsanction any applications that they currently do not have any app tag. For example, I've already sanctioned Patagonia. I'm going to filter that one out by saying no app tags, have a low risk score, and I'm going to go ahead and create a new policy from search. And so that's a neat little button that you're able to kind of understand what are the activities or what are the applications that you're noticing within your environment, and then take one step further. In here, you can also select the policy template and build off of the policy templates through here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and create a policy that unsanctions risky apps. You're able to set the policy severity, the category, and I also like to point out our edit and preview results button within the policy creation. This lets me see if this policy is actually accurate and will provide actions based on what I'm trying to define. For example, right now my filtering is pulling up 9,100 applications. If I want to reduce this size, let's go ahead and add a category, and I just want to unsanction any risky cloud storage applications that have been defined. And that reduced it to 101 applications. I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm going to go ahead and modify the policy. And then you're able to take another step further and either apply it to all of these continuous reports or specific continuous reports. If you choose specific, you're able to streamline based on what you have connected in your environment. And this connects with all of the firewall or proxy data or any data sources you have connected in your environment currently. You can then trigger a policy match if this following occurs on the same day, and filter even more based on here. I'm going to leave that for now. And I want to take the governance action. I want this to automatically unsanction any applications that fall into this category. And so we can click create, and then here's my discovery policy that was recently created. So I talked a little bit about what the data is, how it looks, and I talked about creating a policy. Next step I want to go is, how is this data even configured in the first place? So if we go to the settings and we go to log collectors, we're brought up to this page where you're able to see the different data sources and log collectors you currently have connected in your environment. For the data sources, you can see for my environment, I currently have the Cloud App Security Proxy. This is actually based on our last session, the real-time controls. If you connect within the Azure AD conditional access, this is a built-in proxy that ends up feeding in logs. And it's tied in with the Azure AD conditional access app control. I also have our SWG integration with iBoss connected that has sent up logs. And I also have a data source that's Squid source, but you can see it currently does not have uploaded logs. And the reason being is because I need to set up a log collector to establish that connection between my firewall and proxies and MCAS. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and add a log collector. Let's call it log collector. And I can add in my IP address. And the IP address is associated with whatever server you have connected that is running your log collector. We recommend a Docker on Windows or Docker in a Ubuntu environment for this. And then I can select my resource. I'm going to say Squid source, update this. And what you can see is that there is a deployment guide available on our docs page that kind of goes over how do you configure automatic log uploads for these continuous reports. And as I mentioned, we do have Docker on Windows, Docker on Ubuntu guides that will help you further. We also do have furthermore log collectors behind a proxy and also using virtual appliances, but we have deprecated this because we do recommend, based on performance, Docker on Windows or Docker on Ubuntu. Once you have your host machine up, then you can take this bash command and copy it and paste it into the server running this environment currently. And then you're able to configure exports. And once that is all configured, you have your log collector up and running. And you will see a successful connection, as well as you'll start seeing logs that are currently uploaded. That gives a little bit into kind of how the data sources and log collectors correlate with Microsoft Cloud App Security. Once you have these connected and have your data flowing, then you're able to take it one step further and go into the reports. We have snapshot reports that allow you to, for example, if you have a data source that you have not currently connected and you want to see how Microsoft Cloud App Security parses that information, I'm going to go ahead and click Blue Coat, but as you can see, we have a lot of different data sources available. And we're going to go ahead and create a Blue Coat report. You can also anonymize this private information as well. What we're going to do is go ahead and download one of the sample logs that we have here, where you're able to choose your traffic logs that you have and then upload them accordingly. So this gives you a nice way to kind of test how the discovery component is, but you do have to continuously upload or manually upload your logs. I'm going to go ahead and click Create. And you'll see that it shows a processing cloud discovery snapshot report. It'll take a little bit, but once this is ready, it'll show up in my console saying that it's ready to view. Currently, it's processing. You can also see the view sample report, and this will give you kind of a tidbit of information of what to expect in your snapshot report. For continuous reports, it configures your automatic log upload, and you're able to, for example, create continuous reports based on specific data sources you've already configured. So if I want to create a continuous report on my squid logs and my cloud app security proxies and filter it based on certain user groups, you have a lot of customization here to understand what information you exactly want to see. Also, I want to touch on our anonymization. Within our settings, you're also able to see if you want to anonymize all of your discovery information. You can even have a dedicated encryption key or use a custom key. And then this is where you're able to de-anonymize any information you might have. You're also able to, as I mentioned before, score the metrics that apply to your organization and see the different compliance standards and what importance does that have within your organization. Within the settings component itself, you'll have access to all these different cloud discovery components. I also want to mention the app tags, along with sanctioned and unsanctioned. For example, if you have an application that's in review, you can add a custom app tag that says in review and then add that on specific applications. And you can set a governance action accordingly. Instead of sanctioning or unsanctioning right away, maybe put that application in review. Aside from that, that concludes my overview of cloud discovery. I want to open this up for questions, and I'll hand it off back to Ryan.
Thanks, Amy. Here are a couple of questions we've got. We've got one question about using the demo environments to show off to clients for partners. Is that something that will be changing its capabilities there anytime soon to increase support for applying classification and throttling files, that sort of thing?
Hello, everyone. This is Johan Malley speaking. So on this one, we do have some differences between production tenants and demo tenants. This is for performance reason. We do not want those this amount of demo tenants that we have to impact performances of the real tenants. So we do have some limitations on them. We do not plan to make any changes on these as of now.
Gotcha, thank you. If someone already has a log collector, should they disable it? Which one should they keep?
If someone already has a log collector that is hosted on a server, as you saw within the demo, you're able to go ahead and configure the connection between the log collector as well. So if you have it running on a server, all you would have to do is put in the hosted IP address or FQDN associated with it.
Okay, great. Are the results for any given filter downloadable to a CSV?
Yes. So if we go ahead and go to the dashboard, we can see over here, along with the new policy from search, you're also able to export, and you can export the data or export the domains, and it does export as a CSV file. It's currently loading. There we go. And so you can see that CSV file right there.
Fantastic. How does user enrichment work?
So the user enrichment refers to, in the settings, I'm going to go ahead and just go to log collectors. User enrichment is within the Cloud Discovery settings. So it automatically matches, enriches, and replaces discovered user identifiers. Once you click this, then you would be able to activate the user enrichment. For more background info on this feature, Johan, do you want to elaborate on that?
Sure. So the idea is that we are gathering the usernames from what we get in those logs, and compare it to the username in Azure AD. And if we see that we have the same username, then we can use one user profile for both quote-unquote accounts, making sure that when you look at the user page, you will have the information for discovery as well as the information for anything else that is related to MCAS, such as OneDrive activity or activity logs or things like that.
Excellent. Can you show a little more about how this works with Zscaler?
Yeah, so within our environment, let me go ahead and pull up this one. We do have the Zscaler integration where we do have a Zscaler snapshot report set up. So what this does is we actually have configured this within our log collector. So we have a snapshot report configured where the data source is our Zscaler leaf, and you can see the information associated with it. Kind of more going into the behind the scenes of this is you create an NSS server that communicates with MCAS. And once that configuration is set up, for example, on the NSS server, you do have to configure the MCAS API token, get that configuration correct. And both on the MCAS portal and the Zscaler portal, you can test to make sure that connection is valid. On the MCAS portal, to test that the connection is valid, you can go ahead and go to settings, and in our snapshot report, you can see the logs, and you want to make sure that log upload has a specific number, or you can see the date added as well.
Perfect, thank you. What are our plans for integration with Azure Sentinel?
So we did announce at RSA. If you go to aka.ms RSA 2019 MCAS, some of the feature integrations we do have within Azure Sentinel. And so this leads to our tech community. It's a blog post by our very own Kim Kishel. And if we scroll down, you can see we have, for example, the longer customer retention of Cloud Discovery data. Currently, Cloud Discovery data has a retention rate of 90 days within this environment. Where you can see that is if you go to the dashboard, you're able to view the time frame of last 7 days, last 30 days, or last 90 days. So you'll be able to have an extensive retention data. You can also bring your own data and have customized reporting as well. So the main component or integration between Azure Sentinel and the MCAS would be within the discovery component.
Okay, fantastic. Can someone use MCAS to get to their Azure or Office 365, to allow people to get to their Azure or Office 365, but not either of those when not using a corporate email account?
For the corporate email accounts, we can do that within, for example, there's two options there. You have the real-time session controls. That does apply on your corporate network and identifies risky sessions associated with it. And then we also have the third-party integrations with iBoss and Zscaler that could block, for example, access to the personal Office 365 personal, even Dropbox box, so on.
Okay, great. For user enrichment to work, does there need to be an exact match between the UPN from AAD and the ID used in discovery?
That's a good question. Johan, do you want to elaborate more on that one?
Yes, indeed. You need to have an exact match. I am not sure if the field we're looking for is UPN, but I believe it is. I can double check that and respond on the MCAS Q&A page. But yes, we need to have some a match on it. Let me read the question in its entirety. In discovery, we have ID equals domain slash. Okay. I would have to get back to you on that. If you don't mind re-asking the question on the MCAS Q&A page, and I'll look it up and write a quick response.
Let me give folks that page here one more time.
Please do. Yep.
For any follow-up questions, community aka.ms/MCAS Q&A. So anything we miss here or need some additional follow-up on, or if you're listening to this after the fact, that's a great place to post questions.
Yes, please re-ask the question there, and I'll be happy to respond.
Okay, while we're waiting for a couple additional questions, I'm going to give folks some links that we gave at the beginning, but I know people often have to join a couple minutes late, so they missed that part. If for some reason you don't have the rest of the series, since this is a 6-part series, you can get it all here, aka.ms/MCAS webinar. If you need the recordings, you can find those here, which is aka.ms/MCAS recordings. And we will be pulling together and posting the slide decks there as well. If you haven't checked out our Azure Information Protection webinar, we're doing a similar series on that. So please take a look at that, aka.ms/AIP webinar. And as always, please join our community where you can ask any sort of questions like this at any time. And that's a great place too when you have a very detailed or nuanced question where a screenshot helps, or you have a very scenario specific or configuration specific question that's harder to address, over IM like this. And that is at aka.ms/security community. Okay, we'll give one additional minute here for any other questions. That I don't see any others in the queue. So thank you everyone for your time. We hope you'll join us again for our further sections next week. Thank you, Johan, for helping answer questions. And of course, thank you, Anisha, for a very compelling presentation. We hope to see you again next week.
Thank you all.
Thank you.